got to see my Mrs. Sixties of the rock in a very gentlemanly way. And says he, I have some news to tell. Your rich Uncle Tom of Camberwell, hot, leaves the rich in Anchorson, leaving you his little rocky shade. What shall all the neighbours cry? Do you learn to meet Bill? Have you walked the street, Bill? No, I thought I should have died. Not to mend the old Kent Road.
The old Kent Road, these children know, is not really the place you'd go today to cut a dash with a donkey. Much has been rebuilt. And in bricks and mortar, you can see how dramatic is the change in our way of living since Albert Chevalier wrote that song. These modern flats compare pretty favorably with the sort of house which perhaps once belonged to rich Uncle Tom of Camberwell. It was once beautiful. In the olden days, domestic servants rose at dawn to scrub and whiten the steps. No milk bottle then would ever be allowed to desecrate the front entrance. Change is taking place all over the country. Leave Camberwell and Peckham and see the high flats going up everywhere. Throw a spotlight here today and somewhere else tomorrow, and the human story would be much the same. The visual evidence of history, as seen in bricks and mortar, would be repeated. Camberwell is typical, not unique. From the top of these high flats, you can still look down on old streets. Houses huddled together, looking into each other's windows, smoke from the chimney putting smuts on the neighbour's washing. Right alongside the old is the new. All electric, no smuts, lifts in the high blocks, sunlight, air, privacy. Today you can still see life as it was lived in the past, and young people courageously still making the best of it. When they built Waterloo Square, more than 100 years ago, they gave it an impressive entrance. Trimmed the dull brick with bands of blue and white tiles. Put in plenty of windows, sometimes where they gave almost no light to the room. Tenants often have to burn light all day, but there's only one light, and that a not very bright one. The flats were also built without any water supply. From the street every day came the water cart, and the people came out to fill jugs and buckets. Even today, water is not laid on to each flat. Toilet and sink are shared by 2 or 3 families. Neither wash house nor toilet has light. On this floor they keep a little candle stuck in the corner of the sink. The entrance is dark. That very faint movement on the right is washing drying in a murky draught. Young mothers work doubly hard here to keep their children clean and healthy. But you see that low wall? You climb onto it via the communal dustbins. That's one end of the old world of Waterloo Square. And there's a similar wall at the other end. More dustbins and another child climbing to look over. But on the other side, children play on grass. It's already hard to remember that a short time ago, this ground was like Waterloo Square. Surely this should be the new way of living. Plenty of space for running, where children of all ages can play vigorously in safety away from the roads. It's perhaps easy from a distance to be sentimental about the old. Some people are. But when you're closer than the proverbial stone's throw away, just the throw of a ball away, you long for all this kind of building to disappear forever. Up on the roof, behind the safety bars, the children of Waterloo Square look down on their school friends, who live in new homes, wistfully longing for the time when they too will enjoy a home with light and colour and modern plumbing. But Camberwell is not only a place for building. Peckham Rye is more than 100 acres of common land, a place of recreation for centuries. and it will remain forever an open space. Some very fine houses were built looking onto the Rye. Since the London County Council took over the land, part of it has been developed as gardens. Both men and girls are employed to keep the gardens, and they do indeed keep them most beautifully. The tulips are magnificent. You just have to stop to admire them. Which colour do you like best? Or is it just a mixture dancing in the wind and sunlight? This is the way to the Toddlers' Club. It's the age to make friends. The grown-ups sit on the seats in the background while the business of getting to know your own generation gets underway. Oh dear, I'll get it for you again. Keep her running. Get her weight down. Another treasured open space is Camberwell Green, very tiny when compared with Peckham Rye. The public subscribed £3,000 to buy it in 1857. The flats round the green were built during what is sometimes called the bathroom period, when coloured tiles were all the rage. In the old days, Camberwell Green was kept as a fairground, but the fairs became something of a nuisance. So once the people of Camberwell had bought the green from the lord of the manor, they had it laid out as a pleasure garden and playground. And if you want to make the most of it, you can get quite a bit of exercise in a small space. Or you can take things quietly. Just sit or walk and admire the flowers. This is, however, historic ground. Here it's believed that Christopher Wren dreamt up St. Paul's Cathedral. His house probably once stood where that church now stands, at the end of Wren Road. 3 miles to the north, towering above London's fish market, is his famous monument to the Great Fire, which drove the people out of the city 300 years ago. This ground is impregnated with the smell of fish. Remind you of anyone you know? But leave Billingsgate Fish Market at the bottom, climb up the spiral staircase inside the monument, 311 steps, and at the top, the air is fresh. Over there lies the City of London. To the west, past Cannon Street Station, stands St. Paul's Cathedral. To the south flows the River Thames. And beyond the jungle of bricks and mortar, the borough of Camberwell. In the days of Christopher Wren, the hills to the south were unspoilt country. Here the Prince of Denmark, husband of Queen Anne, hunted foxes. We get a touch of historical memory in a street name and a pub sign. Denmark Hill today is a place where modern homes have splendid views, where it's easier to keep a cat than a dog, though the really popular pet is the budgerigar. John Ruskin, as a young man, spent much of his time around here. But if he were to come back today, he'd find almost nothing which he could recognize. Not even the Camberwell coat of arms, which came into existence a year after his death. The last remnants of the buildings which he knew, the houses where his friends lived, are daily disappearing. This painting of 174 Denmark Hill is all that remains of the house where Mendelssohn spent much of his time in England. It belonged to Dr. Beneke, whose son married Mendelssohn's daughter. In Ruskin Park, where the borough of Lambeth touches Denmark Hill, there's a sundial commemorating the spot where the house once stood. The inscription reads, "Here stands the house where Mendelssohn composed the Spring Song, 1842. Incidentally, he gave it the title of Camberwell Green. Many great Victorians, famous in art and literature, walked here when these were private gardens. They wrote of the peace and pleasure they found here. I wonder what they'd make of it today. Or come to that, what would he think of them? It's lovely to run in the spring sunshine where once Victorian ladies walked sedately in their crinolines. And if it makes you thirsty, you haven't far to go for a drink. All ages are served. All right, your turn will come when your twin's finished. Whatever your age, spring is a lovely time. Whether you're a great musician, a philosopher, or just a little girl. If spring suggests new hope, King's College Hospital is known the world over for the new hope brought to millions of people through the work of great doctors. On one side of Denmark Hill is King's College Hospital, and there, just across the road where the bus is passing, is the famous Maudsley Hospital for the treatment of nervous illnesses. And beside the Maudsley runs De Crepney Park, an English twist to a French name. In these fine houses, you can see the influence of France. The de Crespigny's were Huguenots who came to Britain to live in freedom. In our day, Hitler attacked freedom, and his bombs tore a gap in their house. Up went the prefabs, temporary houses. After 15 years, they're snug little homes, with inside fittings to make a Victorian housewife green with envy. How long is temporary? Who knows? Except that when fire destroys, they are not renewed. The prefab is a part of our architectural heritage. Not beautiful? All right. See it as something which has sprung from the defiance of a people determined to bring up their children in freedom. And whatever happens to the value of property, the grand houses are now converted into flats, we all know, when we stop to think, what the real values are in our lives. In the old days, this part of Camberwell was very fashionable. In this house, 188 Camberwell Grove, for many years lived the great Joseph Chamberlain, father of Prime Minister Neville Chamberlain. Camberwell Grove is still a fine road. True, some of the houses which once were grand are now near derelict. But when they're kept in good repair, they have a grace and charm which is very pleasing. This terrace has been restored by the Camberwell Borough Council, not for families with many servants as in the past, but for council flats. Sometimes the past has much to give to the present, but not when you come to the Sultan Street area. Here there was nothing to salvage. When the railways were built, people flocked into the centre of London from all over the country. Everyone was looking for land to build on. Mean little streets were crammed full of houses, and houses were crammed full of families, often one in every single room. Now, the slums are nearly done, the tired land is being restored, and new development is going up. This building is a massive monument to the suffering of days gone by. It stands just north of the borough of Camberwell, a doss house for down and outs, one of the Roughton houses built by Disraeli's secretary. No body of people has been more consistently dedicated to the relief of suffering than the Salvation Army. Though the dreadful conditions of the last century have been abolished, the uniform of the Salvation Army is a very familiar sight in Camberwell. the William Booth Memorial College gives 400 young men and women a 2-year training for service in all parts of the world. The college serves as part of their international headquarters, since the German bombs reduced the building in the city to ashes. But such is the vigor of their organization that this building will shortly go up on the old site, releasing space in the college for the urgent job of training. This march of students and staff from Denmark Hill to Camberwell Green, flags flying, band playing, is an integral part of the life of Camberwell, and is another side of its changing face. The army was raised by General Booth to serve our people here in the suburbs of London. Now, from a London suburb, the army goes out to 86 countries and works from 17,000 centres. Much that the Salvation Army campaigned for is now a part of our welfare state. But they know that always beyond what the state can do, there is endless work for those who dedicate themselves to give their heart to God and hand to man. Christians in Camberwell support many different churches. The Lifeboys march along Peckham Road for morning service at South London Tabernacle. The girls are there just before them. This is a Baptist church, and there's another in Rye Lane. Quite a different style of architecture is seen in this Congregational church. The Methodists find their symbolism in different lines. London has very few Elim Foursquare gospel churches, and one of them is in Camberwell. And wherever you are in London, you're never very far away from a Roman Catholic church. For centuries, the Church of England has used the symbol of the spire to lift the eyes of men above the earth. The spire of the parish church of St. Giles, when Peckham was a village, used to rise above the trees. Today, you can see it over the chimney pots. When you get close, the trees are still there. But the Church of England has moved with the times and changed the shape of its symbols. St. Luke's is a new church. The young people who worship there find nothing strange in its modern design. But there's something even more modern than St. Luke's. St. Mary's suggests it will have quite different lines. To the young, this is stimulating and interesting. And stimulation of talent on a far wider scale than ever before is needed if we're to meet the demands made on us as a nation. Peckham has a new comprehensive school for 1,600 girls. The object is to encourage all girls to attempt something difficult. In fact, something which they felt at the beginning was probably beyond their ability. This way, they find out for themselves that staying on at school after 15 is really worthwhile. Domestic science, particularly cooking, is useful to a girl, whatever her career. It's useful right away when she marries, but it may be equally useful to a bachelor girl doing a job first. When they reach their 4th year, each girl's timetable is divided into 2 sections. One half is compulsory general education, and the other half they choose for themselves, technical or scholastic. Career experts advise them on what they'll need. It's interesting what a high proportion choose to continue with maths and science, though history and English are the favorites. This class have all passed O-level history. Part of the business of growing up is to get an understanding of the forces and events which have shaped the world you have to live in, as well as some understanding of the precision subjects like maths and science, which play such a big part in future development. Who knows what responsibility this young generation will have to take, or what their needs, physical, mental, and emotional, will be. The school's and London's junior champion javelin thrower is practicing. The headmistress, Miss Smart, follows all the girls' activities with the keenest interest. A comprehensive school provides an alternative to more traditional forms of schooling. It's part of the unending quest to find new ways of awakening the desire for knowledge. The functional design of new schools, plain outside but beautifully equipped within, has a distinct relation with the current trend in education to develop personality from within the child. The same trend is apparent, of course, in the established grammar schools. Wilson's Grammar School started 300 years ago under the care of the parish church. For many years, it provided some free education for sons of the poor. But in the last century, it fell on bad times. Today, it's flourishing. Much has been added, including a new science wing. The relationship with the parish church endures. At the end of term, the 500 boys attend a special service. Still within sight of the spire of St. Giles is a famous girls' school. A new wing is also being built for Mary Datcheler. It's an extensive addition to a large school, and again it's the visual evidence in bricks and mortar of the changing history of our own times. Mary Datcheler has been a flourishing school since its foundation in 1877. But again, the old school, like the new, is alert to changing needs. Increased facilities for science and study rooms for the ever-growing sixth form are being provided. Also a spacious new library. These girls are as keen as mustard to see how their new building is getting on. Even if their school days are nearly over, they know what it'll mean to the future story of their school. It has an interesting past and owes its existence to the increasing value of land and property. In 1726, Mary Datcheler left £20 a year, to be paid out of rents, to educate 2 apprentices. 150 years later, the Charity Commissioners authorised £20,000 from the same rents to build a girls' school. Mary Datcheler would be very content if she could see how the money she left to educate 2 boys has founded a school for 650 girls and inspired a city guild, the cloth workers, and the LCC jointly to maintain it. This school, named after Oliver Goldsmith, was built on the site of a school in which he actually served as a master. He wasn't very happy. He hated the Industrial Revolution and the way people of his time deserted the countryside to crowd together in cities. Now, above the heads of the children at play, we see the shapes of the new Industrial Revolution of the 1960s. That high block is the Sceaux estate, so named because of the friendship link of the borough of Camberwell with the Sceaux suburb of Paris. The design of the flats was inspired by the work of the great French architect Le Corbusier. Each block has a French name. If we go into a maisonette in La Canale, we can see what it means to live here. A pleasant view from a small balcony looking down onto the tops of trees. A bright kitchen, separated from the sitting room by glass. A built-in fridge and modern electric cooker. Electric fires, central heating. No coals to carry or ashes to clear. All Mr. Pawson has to do is to turn on a switch, and on the lower floor through this grating comes hot air. It heats the bedrooms as well as rising up the stairs to heat the living room. In a modern home, young mothers have much more chance to enjoy their leisure with the children, but there are still difficulties to overcome. A great many children live in these flats, and they have a lot of fun together. But when they come in again, home is behind a door without windows in a long corridor. Every door is the same color. Grown-ups can see the difference because they can read numbers. It's very puzzling for a little one, and rather frightening. If Mum is expecting you and opens the door to look, all's well, and what a relief. In the new way of living, a thin curtain is something which softens the light from the sky. But in the road where the Pawsons used to live, the thin curtain plays a part in the life of the community. Through it, you keep in touch with your friends. Coming out to see me? Yes, I was just waiting for you. I'll come and I'll bring my dog. He's a pal of yours. In a Victorian terrace like Lugard Road, the homes were designed to foster the neighbourly spirit. Families know all about each other. The Glazebrookes used to live here. Now they're visiting. They exchanged the warmth and companionship of a Victorian terrace for a modern clinical corridor. In Lugard Road, there's no difficulty in finding the right front door. Each house is quite different from the one next to it, if you take time to look. The time and workmanship the Victorians lavished on the outside of small homes was fantastic by our scale of values today. The status symbol was what your neighbour saw. This was all part of Victorian respectability. We can often salute their courage in striving to conceal the mundane behind a facade of beauty. But courage can also find expression in presenting a plain face to the world and lavishing time and workmanship on the true needs of the family who live in the house. In Ivydale Road, rebuilding after a bomb joins the 19th and 20th centuries together. A tiled front path. You see this in so many houses built at this period. And the panes of coloured glass in the windows, particularly in the front doors. Now, it is untrimmed concrete. Regrettable? The drama of change is the balance of loss and gain. In all Camberwell, the long cycle of history can best be seen in Southampton Way. In the centre of change stands the Victorian pub, the Rosemary Branch. The name is much older than the present building. Inside hangs a picture of the Rosemary Branch of long ago. It was surrounded by fields used for many kinds of sports. Then, to many people's regret, the land disappeared under a higgledy-piggledy mess of deplorable little houses. Now, in turn, these are being rapidly swept away. And from the window of the Rosemary Branch, we see the new designs for sunlight and air and space. There's another souvenir of the past bedded in brick close by. The Camberwell beauty was a fairly common butterfly when farms and gardens provided breeding grounds. This is Tenpenny's farm, where it was first discovered. But when the farms went, and even the tiny front gardens were built over to make shop fronts, the Camberwell beauty died out as a local butterfly, to be seen only as a tattered relic in a frame. There are plans to breed it again, but not in Camberwell farms. There's only one left, and it's probably the last in London. 28 cows give 130 gallons of milk a day. They spend their life in the cowshed, and when for any reason one is taken out, she finds the experience rather alarming. In place of fresh grass, they eat the husk of sugar beet bound with molasses. When it's soaked, they find it succulent and delicious. As well as hay and fresh vegetables, they get plenty of mixed grain, which comes from a nearby vinegar factory. Dairy farming today is a modern business, and a London farmer, like any other, must keep up to date on both marketing and production. It's a far cry from the days less than 100 years ago when selling milk was left to a woman to come round with a can, or sometimes with a cow. Once things are changed, it's very easy to forget what they used to be like. When we see old people today in a modern setting, comfortable little bungalows, each with their own tiny garden at a height they can tend without stooping, when we look at their happy faces, so remarkably young and gay, it's indeed difficult to credit that when they were little children, a bus was a vehicle drawn by a horse. Until the day came when it turned into that modern wonder, the motor bus. When British Transport laid on a centenary exhibition in Hyde Park, the staff dressed up in period costume. And for fun, at the end of the show, one old bus threaded its way down Oxford Street. Yes, the pace of change. And another leisurely means of transport is on the way out. The Surrey Canal did so much to bring people out of London to live in Peckham, because of the supply of fresh vegetables growing in the market gardens on the canal banks. The gardens gave way to industry. The water now ends with the bridge. The filled-in land will be part of the new park, shoddy houses replaced by grass. Change doesn't mean scrapping all that is old. This is a case where the best is kept, and the beautiful old church of St. George is given a setting more worthy of it. What memories will one day be stored in the mind of this little girl and these children? All the time, the pace of change is quickening. The first industrial revolution covered the ground with asphalt and bricks. The second, our own, is uncovering the ground and discovering the sky.